afraid of the dark and spiders under my bed. I got some trust issues, and I hate to say it, but I'm a real hothead. Is there anything else that I could conclude? Are mom and dad to blame for my bad attitude? In one ear and out my head, I never heard it when my parents said, do as I say, not as I do. Now I'm messed up cause I learned it from you. Do as I say, not as I do. Now I'm messed up cause I learned it from you. Yeah.
You gotta be quiet, babe, okay? I'm recording my brand new podcast. It's the first episode. I just want to fit in. Everybody has one. I just want to fit in. Okay, hello. And welcome to I Learned It From You. I am Zach Martina, and I promise you this introduction will be short, okay? I have not a lot to say. You think after the pandemic, I would be pretty good at talking to myself as I am here in the introduction, but I'm not really talking to myself, am I? I'm talking to you, but as far as you're just a green and yellow and red line going up and down on my sound mixer as I talk into a microphone. And I'll be honest with you, it's off-putting. So I promise you will not have to deal with this too much. But before we get into a wonderful conversation with, honestly, in my opinion, one of the just pillars of comedy that have hailed from Michigan, one of my favorite people, Jeff Scheen. I just want to tell you what you're listening to, okay? It's called I Learned It From You. It's all about the lessons we have learned from our parents or the lessons we as parents are teaching our children, whether it's parents or grandparents or aunts and uncles or family friends, or role models in general. They are the reason that we grow up to be the people that we are. And Let's call a spade, shall we? They fucked up. They made some mistakes, all right? My parents are 100% to blame for who I am. Well, they deserve 100% of the credit and they deserve 100% of the blame. Does that make sense? Depending on the day, it's like, you deserve all the credit for this. Thank you so much. Or this is your fault. You did this to me and, you know what? Fuck you for that. Okay. I love you very much, but you did this and now I have to be in therapy. And that goes to be said for me. Like, I have parents and I blame them, but I also have children and I will be fine when they grow up and blame me. And we're just having dinner at 20 years from now. I made their favorite, but you know, maybe they say something or they do something. And I look at them and I'm like, I don't really care for that behavior, but I know 100% it's my fault. I will take the accountability. And that's what this whole podcast is. It's just people talking about the stories that molded them. And I hope there's a hint of embarrassment in them. I hope there's a lot of laughter. I hope they're wondering, what the hell were they thinking? Or if we're talking about them as mom or dad, I hope they think, what the hell was I thinking? Regardless, it's a reflection and it's something that I hope I grow from. I hope that whoever I speak to this week particular, Jeff Scheen, grows from a little bit, or you, the listener, you grow from a little bit, or maybe just relate to it and be like, oof, I know exactly what he's talking about. I went through the exact same thing. That said, I'm about to bring on Jeff Scheen, but before I do, if you guys want to come see me perform stand-up comedy, you can come see me. This will probably be coming out here early July. But if you're in the Indianapolis area, I'm going to be at the Helium Comedy Club July 23rd and 24th in the upstairs stage, real intimate setting. And we are going to get weird. I mean, but consensually weird. I'm not going to do anything that you don't want done. Okay, I'm just going to tell you some zizzles and some zazzles and try to make you laugh and scream at you in the process. July 23rd and 24th at the Indianapolis Helium there upstairs. And then following that, August 13th at the Copper Whale Winery in Ohio, followed by August 14th at the Foundry in Traverse City, Michigan, and then August 15th at Grav Cap Brewing in Oxford, Michigan. Enough about me. I'm very excited to share this conversation I had with you with none other than Jeff Scheen. I mentioned he is one of the funniest comics Michigan has put out there. He's just a silly boy. Okay, he's a man now. We're the same age, but he's just a silly boy. He and I host a podcast on YouTube every Monday during the Lions season called LOL Lions, where we break down the game and talk to a friend of ours who's a fan of the opposing team. That's very, very fun. He's also got another show with Tim McLaughlin called The YouTube Show, but you can find all that out on his social media. It's at New York Jeffrey. Without further ado, here is a little conversation as to why he is the way he is. Jeff Scheen. Hey there, hi there.
Moms always make you eat a dang salad.
Yeah, or listen to them while they're drunk and rambling. Or is that just me?
Yeah, you had a different mom.
I missed that day when we were picking out moms for the womb. I was like, which womb are you heading to? My buddy's like, oh, this warm, cozy one. I go, oh, I had a good deal. It's cold and emotionless in there. We'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, you're like, this one seems boozy.
I got the waterbed of wombs, it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, you came out with a buzz.
Which is why I refuse to have that as a haircut. It's like I did it too long while I was gestating. I don't know if that's the word.
Good God.
But anyway, I learned it from you, and we're going to talk a little bit about your childhood and some lessons that you learned from your parents that maybe in hindsight, despite their best intentions and best efforts, they may have done a little bit differently, I guess, first and foremost.
Oh, yeah. Our parents always damage us.
They do. You can't not. I think most parents have the best intentions. I have this idea that if you ever talk to somebody and they're referred to as mom and dad, there was love in that household. Mm-hmm. But if you're talking to someone and they refer to their parents as mother and father, those weren't loving parents. Those were at best legal guardians. Like, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, you want a mom and dad. The mothers and fathers are too strict and it's going to push them the other way. And then like the Jerry and Diane families is just too wild.
Yeah, they're the ones that like let kids come over and drink and somehow get busted by the cops, but talk their way out of it because that particular officer loves a Seagram's wine cooler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like the kids with the mother and father and the kids with the first name basis both end up having addiction issues.
And then there's the whole mommy daddy situation, which, you flush that out by the hour with a therapist.
Oh, yeah. That one, you nip that in the bud.
Moms give great hugs. Dads tell corny jokes, but mother is a mean drunk and father is a stern man. How are you? Do you have mom and dad, or do you have mother, father? Where are you at?
Oh, I got a mom and dad, just a classic mom and dad, just wasn't too strict and I always blown away. I mean, I had friends that had a first name basis parents and like, oh, Judy. I remember I heard a friend call his mom Judy and I was like repulsed.
What goes on behind these closed doors?
Yeah. I was like, it's mom. You just don't do mom and dad. Just do mom and dad. It's just easy. It's just
do they call them? Is it first name basis all the time, or like were they comfortable every once in a while calling her Judy, but most of the time it was mom?
I've heard some first name basis all the times, and I was just like, is it like a step? Or like, no, that's my mom. It's my actual mom. I was like, well, why just do mom? Why do you want to be friends? Don't you want to love?
Not to mention mom is one syllable and Judy's two. Why are you doing more work?
Yeah, it's a power play. I think the mom and dad, that's the firm. That's the way. I did have one moment where though, how you're like, hey, just call me dad or something like that. I remember I was talking back to my mom one time and my dad, he referred to my mom as his wife. And that was the scariest moment of my entire life.
Because you were no longer his son. You were just a person dishonoring his lady.
Yeah. He said something about it, like, hey, leave my wife. Like he said, my wife. And I was like, oh, my God. Like it changed the entire dynamic. Everything changed.
I could just see like a young Jeff Scheen cowering like a cold dog in the rain at the my wife's, like, because that's what I would do. My dad always used to threaten to send me to military school.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't confident, which is interesting because I'm pretty sure he dodged a draft. Do you know what I mean? Like, even you'd always be like, I came home one time and there were pamphlets on the counter for a military school. And dude, I straightened right up. I was so scared.
That's why he used it as a threat. He's like, I dodged it because I know how bad this is.
He did it for like a decade. It really jacked me up. And another thing with the mom, dad, mother, father thing, if your parents called, like if they called you Jeffrey, you knew you were in for a world of hurt, right?
Yeah, the full name. Yeah. Sometimes if they add the middle name as well, Jeffrey Michael. Oh, what? Which is, but I mean, that one never stung me as much as my mom would call me Jeffrey kind of regularly. That was just, it was weird. My mom always just did Jeffrey for the most part.
I guess mine
was Jeffrey Michael.
And I'm Zachary Taylor. My dad insisted on naming me Zachary Taylor because honestly, this is what he told me. He said, at the time when I was born, Zachary Taylor was one of the worst presidents in history. Hell of a general, hell of a wartime general, but a failure as a president. And he thought that would just be funny to name me. I think his name was like Old Rough and Ready or something.
Yeah, your dad had so much of a military humor to him.
I know, which is funny because he was a hippie and I found out he smoked weed every day I was alive.
So he was just like, I'll send you to military school. I'm naming you after a general who was a great general. By the way, peace and love. I'm not going to war.
And the only rationale you could have behind threatening to send your kid to military school or naming them after a general, like you would have to be high to make those connections.
Yeah. In his high brain, he was like, this is hilarious. Nobody else will get it, but I think it's funny. So you got Zachary Taylor. Okay.
Yep. And
also,
I remember my mom
called guy.
That's Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Zachary Ty Bryan, two very separate people that get meshed together quite often. Also, right. Zachary and Taylor are two of the three Hanson brothers. So,
I mean, those
Isaac.
names are, they've just been paired together for quite some time.
Mm-hmm. Peanut butter jelly, baby.
Zachary and Taylor, peanut butter jelly.
So you have a younger. I've met your parents, by the way, at the Holly Hotel, and they're very nice people. I've always enjoyed the Sheens.
Yeah, they're just a sweet, Midwest, blue collar family. Nothing crazy. Just try to get. But we were very much like. I find the Connors from Roseanne very relatable.
You had a lot of Afghans over couches.
Yeah, just like that lower middle class, always drinking a beer, crack a beer, have a fire pit, we're a little trashy, but, I remember really relating to Roseanne.
What you lacked in money, you made up for with love.
Yeah, there was love there. It was a stern love, and we'd always joke about our poor luck and our lack of funds, but we had two cars, so it wasn't the end of the world.
You also had your own bedroom, and your parents had their bedroom, which, if you're anything like me, back when I was a kid, I would have bad dreams, and I would crawl into bed with mom and dad, and then eventually I would start sleeping on the side next to them. And then the one time I walked in on them making the love, I stopped sleeping in their room.
That's what chased you out, huh?
That's what chased me out. I mean, what chased you out of the parents' bedroom?
What chased me out? It was because I would sleep. Yeah, I slept in there for a little over a decade. It was just I would sleep with my parents.
What brought you in there?
I was afraid of the dark. I had an overactive imagination, and
as comedians will.
Yeah, I would always picture, and my mom also liked scary movies. She loved horror films. So there was constantly times of me being seeing glimpses of a horror film, which I don't think helped, I remember seeing what's that? And just seeing Chucky murder real quick.
Hey, Jeffrey Michael, come watch this butchering.
Yeah, every time you'd peek, because we didn't have a big house. It was a small house. The TV was right behind my room wall. I shared a wall. So the living room was right around the corner. And if you peek in, you would see Pinhead ripping people. It was always something like that. That happened constantly. So that'll scare the crap out of you.
What were your dreams like?
They were fine. I remember I did have night terrors. That was a thing. I hardly remember any of them. I was so young, but my mom would told me what I would say. I would tell her about them. One was a very mean bird. It was just I remember I would talk about a bird that was being mean to me, which has something to do with my self-esteem. Probably I don't know what that is.
That's mean bird?
That's in my own brain.
like a sassy teacher.
Yeah, it would just like be super mean. And then there was like a evil frog. There was something to do with an evil. I would always talk about an evil frog. I don't know. I hardly remember it. But anyways, so I would just sneak in my parents' bed and sleep in between them. I would sleep in the middle for quite a while.
That's a dangerous. As an adult, knowing what we know now, that's a dangerous game.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I slept and my dad would sleep. He would sleep, naked. He slept nude. So I was just like,
as a man has a right to do in his
he did. So like when you're young, it's not that big a deal. Like when you're like a little tiny kid, like nude dad, whatever, big deal. But then it kept going. And then once you start like getting to be the same height, it gets weird. I think
when things start lining up.
Yeah, like all of a sudden you're like as tall as your dad and he's naked in the bed and you're like still sleeping in there. That's like a strange time, But that's just how it was. And then sometimes my mom would sleep in my room because she couldn't. It was too cramped, and she's like, I can't sleep in here. And so she would sleep in my bed. So me and my dad would just be laying in bed, and we would stay up late watching David Letterman. I remember that. We'd be in bed together, me and my dad, with the TV in the bed. We'd just be watching. Then my mom would be sleeping in my room.
Wait, I can't. Was your dad naked while you were watching David Letterman, or did he disrobe before he went to slumber?
Yeah, he'd be nude. He'd be nude in the pages. This is going to get him in trouble. But he would just be sitting there, under the blankets, I guess, but I was just over here and he's over there, and we're just watching David Letterman. And then, he'd roll over, he'd sleep on the side, and then I'd sleep, again, away. He was back to back. That was just like the norm. It was just me and my dad would sleep in bed. Sounds like I got molested. I know it does. Totally aware.
Could make a whole David Letterman's top 10 list out of this whole conversation.
I was telling somebody this about all this, and they're like, "Gee, that's." And then this question, they said, "Were you like poor growing up?" And I was like, "Yeah, we were kind of poor."
But and rich
they were
like,
for some reason that makes it better. Like if your dad was nude in the bed and he had money, that makes it weirder. And I was like,
there's just a certain standard in life that comes with whatever tax bracket you're in.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was like, yeah, if I had a rich naked dad with me, that is weirder than just a poor, beer gut nude guy. Like that's just more comical.
A rich naked dad definitely has secrets, definitely has connections to some sort of human trafficking endeavor. But
there's something with like money and nudity. Like I think because also when you think money, you're like, okay, well he's in shape, so he cares about his body. So, but if he's like poor, it's like, oh, this guy's not sexual at all. He drinks beer, parties, and he's a nude guy.
No, there was no big deal that my dad and I laid in bed. He was naked. We were the type of family that ate cereal for dinner. So it was.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, okay, sure. Poor people are like that.
Your poor mom just run out of her own bedroom and had to sleep in whatever your bedroom was decorated as.
Yeah. I chased her into my room, so she slept in my little twin bed for quite a while. Yeah, and then.
Well, how did this all come to an end? Did your mom like work her way back in, and you're like, well, I'm not leaving?
Yeah. There was definitely attempts to get me out. There was like stand firm. But I just would not give up. I was just more persistent. I would just keep trying to sneak in, and then eventually there was like a deal had been made. I don't know. We didn't it wasn't specifically talked about. There was no like handshake deal, but it was just like an understanding that I was allowed to like sleep on the floor in a sleeping bag. Because after a while, they kept trying to kick me out.
Sure.
Yeah, they tried to kick me out. So I would just wait till 1, 2 a.m. for them to fall asleep and then sneak in with a sleeping bag or blankets and a pillow and then sleep on the floor. So that happened enough times where it was just like, okay, you can just set up a little bed down here now. So I slept on the little sleeping bag for quite a while.
Okay.
And it all kind of stopped. I don't even really remember the complete catalyst, but the moment was when, I'm sure you've heard me talk about this on stage before, but I have a little sister and I was like,
but you're older, substantially older, right?
Yeah. I was going on 13 and I was on the floor in a sleeping bag and my mom was like at the end of the pregnancy, like it was about to happen. And then it had her water broke and then she jumped out and landed. I was on the floor. So she stepped on me in my sleeping bag and then her water broke. On me, on me in my sleeping bag. It wasn't a ton, but it was a lot. And
I don't care how much it was. If water breaks on you,
yeah, it was a little jarring. But then,
you wish you had a jar because that's something to catch it.
Yeah, catch that baby water. But then, after that, then the baby came into the house and dynamics changed to where I just was fine in my own bed. And I don't know if it was the water breaking that turned me or if it was oh, there's a baby here now. Everything's kind of different. This is fine. I don't know what it was, but I just started being fine in my own bedroom.
Because you knew you had to be a big brother.
That might have been it too. They might have been okay, now I must protect, the baby in the other room that's now in that room. I don't know what it was. It was something like that. But all of a sudden I was just I don't know. I guess I'm fine. I think I could do this. And I just started sleeping in my own bed.
What about, you had told me once about a story of your dad chasing you out of their room?
Oh, yeah. That was when the battle. That was when the battle. The battle of trying to get me to sleep in my own room. When I said I wouldn't give up, I kept pestering them. That was one night where they would I kept sneaking in and then they'd hear me. And then yell, and I'd go, oh, and I'd scurry away. And it was just
like a raccoon?
Happening. Yeah, like a raccoon. I just kept sneaking in with a pillow and a blanket to sleep on the floor. This is what broke the I can sleep on the floor rule now. Because I kept trying to do that over the course. Like I said, I'd wait till 1, 2 a.m. And I just kept trying. And they were just trying to break that habit. But I kept sneaking in, and then finally I just remember my dad shouting, get out! And he'd had enough. It was probably the 25th time of me doing it.
So it sounds like a patient man. A man can only take so much, and he gave you 25
It had lasted,
tries.
yeah. It had definitely lasted over an hour of me just a long battle. And then I just remember he just leaps out of bed. And like I said, he slept naked. So he was just in the buff. And I remember he grabbed a belt and he just started waving it and just chasing me. I remember running and you just seeing this grown naked man swinging a belt at me.
You should write a spec script for the Connors, specifically on that idea.
Yeah, because my dad had a very, Dan Connor vibe. He was very beer, he always cracked beer. He was waving a belt. He's in the nude, and I just ran. And then I ran on my bed, and I waited for a few more hours, and I snuck in eventually and still got in there. I never gave up.
Was the belt a thing that was normal in your growing? It was always a threat. If I ever got a whooping, it was always by the hand. He would threaten the belt, my dad, but I never got the belt.
I don't think I never got the belt either. It was usually a threat, and that was the only time. There might have been another time, but it was swung at.
Yeah.
I definitely would run away. I was faster than both of them. My parents are shorter people. They're 5'2", so I can outrun both of them easily. Especially as I got a little taller.
Did you?
But it was a swinging of the belt, but I never actually got hit.
Did you guys ever talk about this again? This seems like a thing. If it happened with my dad, it would just we would never ever talk about it, ever.
Yeah, it wasn't really talked about. I mean, we bring. There's always me getting brought up of me sleeping in bed with them and them trying to get rid of me and me just not going away. I was yeah, I'm very persistent. And then they said a thing, but the belt incident, like I bring it up and I was like, I think my dad kind of barely remembers, and like I kind of do. It's just like in the middle of one random night.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I do remember the imagery of me running and a nude man swinging a belt. That you can't forget. I do remember that moment in time.
I may have repressed stories about the evil frog or the mean bird. Kids aren't the only ones that repress memories. That is definitely a memory a parent would repress. Like, I don't want to talk about that ever again.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know, I hit a breaking point, I swung a belt, I forgot I sleep naked so I didn't have any clothes on. Like, oh yeah, that's in here though, it's in my brain.
But what a trump card you have in stories like if you're ever hanging out with your family and family friends and they'd be like, Jeffrey here, he slept in our bedroom until he was 13. Oh yeah, Dad? How about the time you chased me naked with a belt? That's you want to make fun of me? You jumped out naked after we had just got done watching Letterman.
we just finished watching Letterman. That was our thing. So yeah, I don't know. Nude dad doesn't faze me at all. It's just like I said. Potbelly makes everything nude potbelly funny. Nude abs, it's creepy.
Yeah, you want to. Yeah, a keg is funnier than a six pack. A six pack is like that's calculated.
Yeah, six pack's creepy. A keg belly, you're like, you funny. I don't even notice the wiener. It's just all that gut. It's funny, you know.
You see a nude gut coming after you. A child knows, this is unusual. I'm gonna run. But if a child were to see a nude six pack coming at them, they have been abused and are like, oh no, not again.
Yeah, that's too much. Yeah. So then when my sister showed up, like when we had there's a little girl in the house, my mom made my dad start sleeping in boxers.
Your sister really changed a lot in your house.
Yeah, she changed quite a bit, which just speaks to such there's such a gender bias in the house, It's just like, nude man, nude boys, whatever, it's fine. Boys will be boys. They got the same stuff. But a girl, you got to put boxers on. I was like, why'd she get the treatment? She didn't even sleep in there. She was fine. She never slept in there. Should have had the boxers on for me. I was the one right next to the dang thing.
Maybe she had heard, you forgot about telling her the tales of why you don't sleep in mom and dad's room.
Oh, yeah. Just the horrors. You might get a belting, who knows?
Listen, I'm 13 years older than you. I've lived a life. Let me tell you a little story about that belt right there.
But yeah, I guess they were trying to fix the behavior. You don't want your kid to sleep. But I think at that point, the damage had been done. It's already set in here. I know to this day as an adult, I know that I don't like sleeping alone. I'm not a fan of it. I'll tell you that. Right. My girlfriend went to Minnesota. Chloe went to Minnesota for this past week. And I didn't sleep very well at all.
Don't you have a backup body pillow?
I do
you need a pillow.
I do hug an extra pillow. I'll have I do need a body thing. But yeah, I don't like sleep hotels. I don't like being in there alone.
I find that the pillow, the hugging it helps, but what really helps is it between the legs. Getting it between the legs, that really, really goes a long way.
That's good too. I sleep on my stomach for the most part.
And I mean, from your parents' standpoint, I get it. You always want to do what you think is best. And obviously we are products of a different generation than the generation that is being raised now. You always do your best, but you don't always have time to think things through.
Right. Yeah. I mean, every generation is slightly less extreme than the previous. I got a belt swung at me, which is, say to the kid now, everyone's like, oh my God. But to them, they're like, oh no, you got hit by the belt. You didn't get hit?
Yeah.
They're like, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then to them before that, they're like, oh, you didn't get strangled till you passed out by the belt. Each one is worse and worse.
Yeah, our parents got hit with the belt. We got hit with the hand. And now, instead of physical abuse, we just resort to emotional. That's what I think is the modern day parenting. Yeah.
And eventually, in 1,000 years, people will be fine.
Eventually, in 1,000 years, the kids will be raising the parents. It's just a complete overcorrection.
Yeah. The kids are hitting their parents with a belt. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I thought you wanted to play more video games. You're right. You should do your homework. That's right. They beat their parents with a belt. How come you're not making me do my homework?
That is not the quadratic formula. My dad dad always used to do that with the belt too. He would like fold it in half and go.
Oh yeah.
Like they would snap the belt.
Yeah, that was like a threat. Like, you get one of these, you know,
Yeah.
which I think was just like funny to them. Because like, we're not going to do what our parents did, but this is what they would, you know.
I have never bought a belt and not tested it that way. I have been in department stores, folded the belt and snapped it. And I'm like, that sounds good. And then I'll buy it.
Yeah, you want a nice snap, you know,
a nice sturdy snap.
Yeah, which is like, yeah, it's just like how, I mean, look at Adrian Peterson, you know what I mean? His kid get a Switch, and he's like, oh, you can't apply your childhood to the childhood. That wasn't right.
No, that's a wooden stick. But at the same time, like, it's a very thick leather belt. But of course, we were just threatened with it, whereas that Switch landed on some skin. Yeah,
landed on the kid. And if Adrian Peterson's kid does turn into a Hall of Fame running back, maybe he's onto something.
Yeah. Well, you know, they say Michael Jackson was so good at what he did because his dad beat the shit out of him.
You know? Can
we really overlook all those other things, BKV? Because
I mean, I'm wondering why Blanket's not a better singer.
Yeah, if there's any indication that Michael Jackson abused his child the same way he abused other young kids, that kid should be a talent based on genetics and raising alone.
Yeah, Blanket, he should be top of the charts.
But if I lived in a house like that, I don't know. I would run away. I don't know. That's always the thing that kids would do. Like, I haven't gotten to the point in my parenting journey yet where my kids have threatened to run away. And I like to think it's because we have a pretty nice home, but I'm sure all parents think that. I remember my brother always used to threaten to run away, and then he would run away. But what he would do is he would just run across the street and sit on the curb that you could see from the front door. Like, it was an empty threat every single time. And he did it at least once a week.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was like that's like the big, that's the only thing you got as a kid. Yeah. That's the only power you have. It's like, well, I'll go away. Because you can't do anything else. You're like, what else am I going to do?
Meanwhile, in that moment, your parents are like, please just go.
But as a kid, you're like, I can leave. And I think, like, I don't know how often kids.
You'd always pack toys, too. Toys and a blanket. And a blanket.
Yeah, you pick some toys. Because I think, like, our parents' generation, when those kids ran away, they, like, legit ran away. Mm-hmm. Like, they ran away because they weren't getting, belt threats. They were getting belted. So, like, well, I'm going to leave. And they would actually run away.
They'd find a train and hop on a car.
Yeah, and then with us,
it was usually,
it was like more of a threat because we saw like, oh, okay, there's child molesters all out in the world. You guys never want me to be alone. I'll run away because I know you'll care. I'll get killed.
Honestly, my kids, when they were never really scared of like monsters like Dracula or Frankenstein or anything. My kids were always scared of white panel vans, and I assure you that if my kids ever ran away and saw one white van drive by, they'd be like, oh no, we're turning it around. The world's a cruel place and I don't want
you're just more informed. We got the internet now. You're aware of how the world works. But like our parents had no idea. They're like, I don't read the newspaper. It's fine. And then there was just like kids getting murdered all the time back then.
All the time.
And then with us, we're like, well, we got TV. I bet I can get a few miles though. And then now they're like, no, there's molesters everywhere. So
they're like, you tell people like, oh, this is what my kids are afraid of because we've informed them that there are kidnappers out there. And they're like, well, you're killing their innocence. And I'm like, innocence is a liability. Okay. We can't, that's a luxury we can't afford.
Yeah. The internet has destroyed innocence, decades ago. So yeah, I ran away a couple times.
How far did you get?
I got pretty far. Once it was a threat, because it was like, I know you guys love me and need me. I'm going to run away. It was one of those. Because I believe my mom refused to buy me some action figure I wanted. I can't remember which one it was. It was some kind of like, maybe a Transformer or something. I don't know. But it's like some expensive new action figure. And I was like, I want it. And she's like, no, you're not getting it. And I was like, fine. I'm going to run away. And then she did that thing where like, fine. Go, where they like call your bluff. And I was like, I'll show them. And I remember I packed my bag. I made a little backpack and I put in like a blanket. And then I put in I put in a blanket. I think I put in some kind of comic book, something to read, and then a whole bunch of Nutri-Grain bars. I put a bunch of Nutri-Grain bars.
Nutri-Grain bars back in the day were the best. I love a good mixed berry Nutri-Grain bar, man.
Yeah, and they're a healthy snack. They're somewhat of a meal substitute. And I was like, well, I'll just live off of Nutri-Grain bars for a while till I,
Nutri-Grain bars and rainwater.
Yeah, like I can survive. I'll get a job, figure it out, So, and then I enlisted my buddy. I made my friend run away with me because there's always
a real Tom Sawyer Huckleberry Finn thing going on.
Yeah, it was a very Tom Sawyer Huckle, I was the one that was the let's do this, and he's like, oh, I don't know, and I was like, come on, and like, okay. I was always the one that pressured into bad ideas. So I made him run away with me. I was like, let's go. And we lived in the woods. So we walked cross street into the woods, and we got really deep into the woods.
Where the clowns live now. That's where all the clowns live now.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that creepy clown pandemic that was a year or two ago.
Right.
That was wild. I watched a documentary about that just recently.
Was it? What was it?
It's on Hulu. It was something about this guy does it, like some weird
the Florida guy.
Yeah, the Florida guy.
Yeah.
He does it as a artistic
parents' call
thing. Yeah, he's like parents' call. He's like, I'll scare you. It started off as like an artsy type deal, but then it ballooned and skyrocketed, and he became like a legend. He kind of plays with it. But then
now he's revolutionized Scared Straight.
Yeah, and it snowballed into other people started. I'm gonna get on this, and then I think some creeps got into it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and all of a sudden there was
I have to imagine most people that wear clown makeup are creeps.
Yeah, but then I remember there was a couple months where people were clowns are showing up all of a sudden because it just started to snowball.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, this was pre-clown time.
So there you are in the woods.
So we walk through the woods. We go pretty farthest I've ever gotten into the woods, and then the woods clear out, and then all of a sudden, we're in it was a gravel pit. Lived by a gravel pit, where they excavate gravel.
You're in a Stephen King novel at this point.
Yeah. So it turns into this gravel pit, and then we cross the pit. We get our way. We work our way across the pit, and then it was a field, and then we entered some random field, some farmer field. You're walking through a calendar where it's just stock images of nature. Yeah. We're just going, we had a little flashlight, and we get, it's starting to get dark. And then, my friend starts to chicken out on me.
As soon as it gets dark, the safest time to do it.
Yeah, right. As soon as it gets dark, he's like, we should go. And I was like, I don't know. That was getting kind of dark. And then we turn around, and then we see a flashlight in the distance, and then my dad caved, and then we hear his name, and he's shouting, and then he's like,
Jeffrey Michael!
Yeah, Jeffrey!
He had clothes on this time.
Yeah. He had clothes.
He didn't just wake up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they caved, finally got me, so I won that battle.
I like to think that they caved and got you, but left your friend there. He's not our responsibility.
Yeah, he's still out in the woods. Yeah, I haven't seen him since. I don't know what happened to that guy.
As a matter of fact, I heard he took up clowning.
Yeah. Yeah, he just lives in the woods now. He dresses as a clown. But yeah, my dad was the one that caved, because I did it to my mom. So my mom was I was like, I'm running away from you. Screw you. And then when my dad came looking for me, I was like, all right, well, I still win, because I still ran away from my mom. Dad caved. It was I beat both of them at the same time.
Did you ever get that transformer?
No.
Oh, well, you didn't deserve it. It sounds like it sounds like they made the right decision there.
I know, but I still got pretty far. I still scared the crap out of them. My threats of running away had no longer become empty.
Buddy, if my kids ever ran away, we look at our parents differently. They're just unable to feel. I don't think that you always think that there's no way my parents cared about me that much. But if my kids ever ran away, I don't know what I would do. I would die. My blood pressure would skyrocket. I would be like, get the cardiologist on the phone. I'm going to call my cardiologist. You call the cops, because someone's going to die. Yeah. Yeah. You can't call the bluff anymore. There's nothing you can do. Yeah. It's too risky to call the bluff. There's too many people now.
You know, like back in the day, you could call the bluff because there wasn't as many people around. Whereas now there's people all over the place. And half of them are crazy.
I'll tell you this, having a kidnapping is the most beautiful thing and also the most terrifying thing.
Go on.
That's it. It's just a kidnapping is, oh my God, that's so sweet. They're so cute. They're so innocent. But then a kidnapping, it's like, oh my God, how much money can I get for this house in cash now?
I see.
Because I will pay the ransom.
I thought you were talking like a kid, like somebody kidnapping is beautiful. Like, finally, no more kids. I can get some rest.
Just some peace and quiet.
A kidnapping.
How long will you keep the kid? Can I get you the money in a couple hours? Because I could really use a babysitter. Just promise me they'll be safe. But I would like to go out with my wife.
Yeah. Just chalk it up to, well, just think of it as an expensive babysitting.
The hardest thing too, like about it's making the tough decision as a parent, because like when I was a kid, I quit almost every single thing I did, and I would go in with lawyer quality arguments as to why I shouldn't have to do this thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to cost us money. It's going to cost you time. I'm not really into it. I'd rather spend time with you. I would try and play on the heartstrings. And every single time I ended up being able to quit.
Oh, yeah.
Were you a quitter? I'm a quitter. Stand-up comedy is the only thing I've never quit.
Same with me.
Yeah.
It is the only thing I've yet to quit. That is like when people ask, I go, oh yeah, why stand-up comedy? And I always go, it's honestly the only thing I haven't quit.
That's right. And now I won't quit because I'm like, well, I'm this far in. It's the longest job I've ever had.
Yeah, same. I have quit everything. I refused. Yeah. This one I won't quit. But everything else I like tried, I quit.
Yep.
Especially, yeah. And I think that my parents let me quit. I never got grounded either. I was always, I mean, I was an only child for such a long time. You get babied and you can do whatever you want.
Sure.
So like you sometimes you get an idea. I would get like this idea like, I'm going to do this. Like the one was, I remember soccer. I was like, I'm going to do soccer. This is the soccer year. And so my parents were like, okay, you're going to get into soccer. So they bought me, cones, soccer ball, shin guard. They're like, oh.
I got you a whole setup for the backyard. Like, we're going to train.
The whole soccer setup.
Let's go, Pele.
Yeah, because I get into things, I'm like, I'm doing it. I still to this day am like, holy crap, yeah, let's do that. And get super excited about something. And then a week later, just like, I don't know. I just don't feel like doing it.
I wanted to do a podcast and spent way too much money on equipment. And honestly, yours and mine about the Lions is the one that's lasted the longest.
Yeah, the amount of camcorders I have that I bought, I'm like, I'm going to start making sketches. And then I never use it. And then they go out of date and they fall apart and they suck. I just have multiple camcorders.
But then you need a new one?
Yeah, then you need a new one. Yeah, so I keep going, but now I'm going to actually do it. And then I just don't. So I just keep buying. Now it's technology. But yeah, that was soccer. And they bought me a whole bunch of soccer stuff. And I was like, I'm going to, yeah. And I got like practicing my soccer, whatever. And then the day comes, when you go to your first soccer practice, and my mom drove me up there, and I sat in a van, and I don't, it's just a bunch of people I didn't know, and I was like, I can't. She's like,
how old were you?
Go on. I was like 9 or 10. She's like, go on, go do soccer. And I was like, I don't know any of these people. She's like, well, yeah, but you'll meet them. Let me just go and do the soccer. I was like, I can't. Nope. I'm not getting out of the car. And then we just sat in the car, and she just kept trying to get me to get out and go to soccer practice. And I was like, I don't know anybody. And I just started crying, and I just cried for like a 15, 20 minutes, just bawling my eyes out like, I don't know any of them. Like, I was just afraid to meet people. And then after,
you're lucky it wasn't baseball, because that's around the time A League of Their Own was huge, and there's no crying in baseball.
Oh, yeah, there's no crying in baseball. But yeah,
soccer.
Yeah, so if we just sit in the car, then my mom just keeps trying to get me to go out. And I'm like, no. And I wouldn't leave the car. I'm crying. I'm afraid to meet people. And then after a while, she's like, all right, I guess you're just not going to do soccer. And then just pull up, and then that was it. I just never did soccer. And we just drove home. And then my dad was like, how's soccer? And she's like, he cried. He didn't want to meet anybody.
He cried, though.
Yeah. And he was like, oh, you should have made him get out. I would have made it. She's like, I tried, but he just wouldn't leave the van. He just kept crying. I was like, I don't want to meet anybody. And that was that. So I quit soccer. And I cried my way out because I was afraid to introduce myself.
Which is amazing, because you are easily one of the most friendly people I have ever met.
Oh yeah, but I don't like meeting new people. I can, it's hey, I'll be very friendly, but I'm terrified of you. I mean, a friendly guy petting a tiger is still a friendly guy, but he's scared shitless.
What's wrong with that guy?
But yeah, that probably started my I can get away with quitting things.
So based on your experiences with your parents and just, I mean, strictly the ones that we've talked about, what are your thoughts on procreation? Do you want kids? Is that something you're interested in? Is it something you're firmly against?
Yeah, I do. I do at some point, How
do you think you'd be as a father?
Everybody
How do you think you'd handle the situations we discussed today? You got a kid, and they won't get out of your bed. What are you doing? First of all, we already know you're in sweatpants because it's 2021.
Yeah, I'm in sweatpants, and I just strap in for 10 years because if they got my DNA, you're just best not fight it, Put on Stephen Colbert, and just try to make a second kid as soon as you can.
Also, you're a little selfish about it because, as you've said earlier, you're like, I don't like sleeping alone. So, like, the more the merrier.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. Like, hey, this is great. Yeah, of course. You
just have a big Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory bed.
Oh yeah. I'll probably coddle and be a clingy father. But everybody I was always like, you'd be a great Chloe's always like, you're gonna probably be a great dad. And I was like, why is that? She's like, I apparently talk like one already. I say dad things all the time now.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think I think I would be good at it. I think I'd be nice, Almost. I need to get my shit together a little bit more. I'm a few years away from getting my personal life to get together.
Listen, buddy, my shit is nowhere near together. The only difference between before I had kids and now when I have kids is I carve out little pockets in the day to just hide and cry by myself. Like, I go through my own shit behind locked, closed doors.
Yeah. But everyone's like, you're never going to be ready. So I guess I probably am now as much as I will be in 4 or 5 years.
I feel like you'd be a good dad because you're a fun dad. You got a silly, childish sense of humor. That being said, like, you are one of the funniest people, in my opinion. I think you would be a wonderful dad. You also have a pretty decent moral compass. You know the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah, I feel like I got a good moral compass.
I mean, what it comes down to is, like, just teach your kids to say please and thank you, and then they're not shitheads.
Right. Yeah. Like, you don't. Like, I'm not religious, and I don't think you don't need religion. If you're using religion for the moral compass, then it's like, what? You can't just use yours? Like, what? Do your moral compass.
If you're using religion for anything, what are you afraid of? Like, that is the biggest scare tactic out there, in my opinion.
Yeah. If you're using religion to, morally guide your kids, my question is always like, why can't you use what's wrong with your morals? If you can't, if you're like, no, go off the book. Don't listen to me. I'm messed up.
Do as I say, not as I do. Okay.
Yeah, I got some wild views, so you better go read the book.
That's one thing I try to teach my oldest daughter. She loves to argue, and I'm always like, listen, you got to make sure you know both sides of the argument because you're going to come off sounding like a lunatic if you only know the one.
Yeah. So,
how would you handle the running away situation? Because I'll tell you, when the kids were very little, 2 and 3, I tried to find a way to microchip them. I was like, I was ready to just invade their privacy for the rest of their lives. I needed to know where they were at all times.
Yeah, I don't. You can't let them run away anymore. Like
what? Like, imagine it. If you got a kid, they're 6, 7, 8 years old, they're going to tell you they run away, and then they go for the door. What do you do?
Yeah, you got to figure out.
How would you handle it?
You got to reason with them. I think you got to talk it out. You got to figure it out with words and stuff. You can't call the bluffs of running away anymore because, like I said, there's too many people. Mm-hmm. It's not like say 1% of the population are like child murderers. Back then there was a few thousand. Now that's like, I don't know, 1 million.
Yeah, the last thing you want is your kid to like actually run away and then become the subject of some true crime documentary on Netflix.
Yeah, because
like, that's my greatest fear. Because then you got to be on the interview. You're right. Wrong.
Yeah, you got the interview and they're like, well, why? What happened? And you'd be like, I called their bluff.
I didn't think they'd actually do it.
Yeah, I was like, he'll be back, and he's gone forever. So it's like, you gotta like reason. You don't cave, but you gotta like, you gotta figure out how to like therapy. You have to like be a little bit of a therapist now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I think you need to go to therapy to learn how to therapy.
I'll tell you what, though, it's very hard getting them to get out of their shell and just talk to you about anything, because much like I did growing up and hitting adolescence, my oldest is just starting to go through puberty and all that stuff. And she shuts down, and like, you have to find a creative way in, but also know when to shut the hell up.
Yeah.
Because apparently you're like, okay, I've experienced these things. Let me go ahead and walk you through it. But really what they need is you to just shut your goddamn mouth and listen to them, and then maybe come back in 3 or 4 days to discuss it.
Yeah. You got to give them time, because their little brains are getting all morphed. They're like, I can't figure this out. They're like, you're gonna need like 3 days to figure this out. I'll come back. Their little brains are all getting all mixed up.
That's one route you could take if they're going to run away. Or if they say that they're going to run away, you could do what some people do and just hog tie them.
Oh yeah, hog tie. Wait for them to calm down.
Yep.
In all honesty, I'll just pump my kids full of pills.
If my kids ever are like, I'm going to run away, I'm like, all right, cool, I could use a walk. Let's go for a walk. Like, I'll go with you.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep mine just heavily medicated till they're 18.
But what if your kid's so diabolical that you're out there walking and they're like, I don't know him. And you're trying to say, I'm her dad. They're not going to believe you.
Oh yeah. That's why you gotta have those. That's why you gotta have the photos of them in your wallet. Like,
yeah.
No, I have. See, these aren't to show. These are to prove ownership of this child.
and those pills would benefit, because they would be too calm to be like, he's not my dad.
Yeah, you just medicate them till they're 18. They'll get it off, and then you start building your relationship then.
That's the number one thing people tell me after comedy shows is they're like, oh my God, that's such a fun age. Good luck, because they're about to leave you. And I'm like, what? And she's like, don't. And then they're like, don't worry, she'll come back in like 10 years. That's the most terrifying thing in the world.
That's interesting.
They're like, they're with you for, 8 to 10 years. Then the puberty hits and they go away until they're about 20. And then all of a sudden they come back, and it's a hard thing to deal with.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. I'm actually just now starting to come back.
Says the guy who moved to Chicago and then further away to New York.
Yeah. But like now we're like talking more than we used to. It's like I'm starting to float back now. So I think I'm a little bit of a late bloomer.
Maybe. I don't know. Well, dude, this has been just a real. I'm happy with how this first one has gone down. I feel like we talked about some good things. I feel like either people with kids are like, that's not how you should raise them, or people without kids are like, I think they have some really good ideas. We got a nice balance of parent, non-parent, but both with what we believe our own moral compass, not driven by religion.
Beautiful.
Did we solve all the world's problems? I mean, the ones involving parenting, maybe.
I think we're done. I think we've solved it. You heard it here first. You don't need religion. Pill your kids up, and they'll come back.
They'll come back, at the very least, in a picture on a milk carton. It's a scary world out there. All right. Well, I'm gonna sign off with a thing that my dad always said growing up. This is gonna be my sign off line. It'll be the first time I say it, and then maybe if you want to say it, you can say it too, or you don't have to. I don't know. These are just ideas. But my dad always said his catchphrase growing up was he would grab me by the shoulder and he would look me in the eye and he'd be, "Hey Zach, ABC." What does that mean? And he'd be like, "Always be cool." My dad told me that growing up all the time. ABC, always be cool. DEF, don't ever forget.
That's fun.
He smoked so much weed.
Yeah. That's a weed dad, baby.
When my dad died, when he passed away, one of the things that he left me was the biggest mason jar I've ever seen full of weed. And I honored him every night for a couple months.
Beautiful. Yep, he was looking down like, hell yeah, son. ABC.
And that concludes this week's edition of I Learned It From You. And I'll leave you with a little quote that my father used to say to me every single day. Give a person an episode and they listen for a day, but if they rate, review, and subscribe, then they're listening for a lifetime. So I beg of you, please rate, review, tell your friends, and for the love of God, subscribe. I Learned It From You is hosted by me, Zach Martina, with music by Brad Goff, produced by Brett Mercer, and graphic design by Trevor Smith.